Hello everyone, hope the day finds you well. I wanted to give a review today to talk about Geissele's optic mount right here for the legacy Aimpoint CompM4 as well as the CompM4S, which this exact same mount does fit both of them, unlike with the CompM5 where you have slightly different footprint for the M5 versus the M5S. But same one here, really good mount. For context and to kind of start with a little bit of a backstory on why I picked up this mount. So for me, I actually originally picked up this CompM4S fully assembled from Aimpoint, brand new, with one of the QRP mounts and spacers. Just this setup right here. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this. This is just, you just have a thumb dial right here, and theoretically you're just supposed to tighten this down all the way, and then you can see these little notches right here, just clicks in, and you're supposed to click it twice and it's supposed to lock in. So one issue I ran into is that that did not actually lock in. What I noticed was shooting with it mounted on the same rifle whole time, and after around I want to say 600 or 700 rounds shot through here, I actually noticed that the QRP mount was starting to loosen up a lot, and I was actually able to wobble this whole thing a little bit back and forth in that pick slot. It didn't fall off completely, obviously, but still not good. It was definitely not holding zero, and I retightened it, did just a quick check, and it was holding again, but then I shot just a few hundred more rounds and it did it again. So not user error or anything. I did have this properly installed. I tried tightening it to spec, tried tightening it actually further than that a little bit, and still same thing happened. So this Geissele mount really resolves that completely. So how this is better is, first I'll show you this from this side instead. So you actually have two bolts right here. You can see just these big lugs, very ordinary for a lot of the Geissele mounts, but yeah, these just bolt on to the picketing rail itself and holds really well. A lot of torque on those. And then also, not just you have that, you also have these recoil lugs, for example. You can see that one through there, just sitting there to help really hold things in place. And it has worked perfectly. I've shot a lot of rounds through with this mount on, and it's just a lot more durable. They do offer this, of course, in their two regular colors. So black, of course, is what I have here, as well as in, they offer this in DDC, or Desert Dirt color, which is just Geissele's version of tanadized. It's a lot more actual tan. I do like it a lot compared to something like Unity Tactical, which is usually a lot more of a gold FDE, but DDC is really good, and it's always been fairly consistent. Obviously, you'll always get some variants with anodization, but yeah, they've been one of the better manufacturers as far as consistency, as far as I've seen. I did want to talk a little bit about the installation of this optic mount. It's a very straightforward installation process. I had a ton of trouble removing the Aimpoint, the original mount. I'm guessing maybe it was Joe Bob's first day at the factory, because it was ungodly over torqued, and I actually had to use a screw extractor just to get the original screws out. Thankfully, Geissele does ship this with two of their own screws, which they do recommend you use their screws for the installation, which is good because I had to destroy the original ones. But yeah, once I got the original mount and spacer off, this was a super easy process. And then from there, you can just take a torque bar, pop a socket on here, onto these two, and just lock it on to there. One thing that I do like, it's just kind of nice as a little feature when you are installing it, is that these are actually captive. So you can't take these off, unthread them completely and lose them. They will actually stay on. So I do like that, just a little peace of mind. When you are installing it, you don't lose a tiny part and then it disappears forever under the workbench because the gnomes, the gremlins take it. Last up on the optic height, this Geissele mount puts the optic at a 1.54 inch height. Pretty normal, absolute co-witness. This is also very comparable to the OEM QRP optic with the spacer. So the OEM one is a 39mm, which is a 1.535, so rounding up, it's basically identical. One thing you might want to keep in mind, of course, is with the OEM mount, you don't need to run the spacer, so you could get that a lot lower, especially if you like lower mounts. And for example, if you're using something like an AK, as I am, then you might like having the optic just right above the dust cover as low as possible. But if you go with this mount, keep in mind that the lowest it can go is 1.54. Since now you don't have a spacer, it's just one monolithic block there, which personally I prefer for the strength and rigidity of it, but you do lose that ability to go any lower than that. Otherwise, if you're using an AR, I don't imagine you'd want to go any lower than 1.5, so this will be pretty much perfect for you. You don't need to worry about it. If you prefer taller optic heights, of course, this is probably not going to be the mount for you, given that this is only available in the 1.54 inch height. However, that's going to depend on the exact rifle that you'll be mounting it on, because of course keep in mind that that 1.5 inch height is really referring to AR flat top uppers. If you mount this on an AK, for example, as I did, you need to consider the dust cover height as well as the standoff, for example, with mine, between the dust cover and the side mount. So with that, plus the optic height here, it ends up being a very comfortable, very natural position. Very comparable because I am a fan of the taller optic heights myself, and so this puts it at a much more natural point for a heads-up shooting stance. So not a whole lot to this review. I feel like this is pretty straightforward. It's a very, very solid, very well-made optic mount. Huge improvement over the OEM optic mount, as I mentioned. And yeah, if you are using the OEM optic mount right now, I would highly recommend upgrading to this. Now, you may not need it. One thing keep in mind is I think the reason that it lost zero or just completely loosened up on this rifle is because this is an AK. Granted, 5.56 AK, but still an AK has a significantly higher amount of reciprocating mass compared to an AR. So if you're putting your aim point on an AR, it may not ever have that same issue that I did, but if you're using anything with a bit more recoil to it, you may benefit from that. So hope that this was informative, and if you have any other questions on this or you want to add your own experiences, by all means do please leave those in the comments below, and any questions I'll try my best to get back to you. Other than that, thank you all a whole bunch for watching, especially if you made it through the whole video, and take care. See you all in the next one. See you then. Whoa. Hello there.